Hello, friends. It's time for Talk Fort Dodge, the show that uncovers the stories behind the houses and the heart of our community. I'm Jeremiahjcondon.
And I'm Todd McCubbin, and today we are here with Todd Baker of Baker Electric. But before we talk to Todd, let's get a couple real estate facts.
Real estate facts. We have 184 homes for sale in the Fort Dodge area. There's 45 rental properties, which we've never talked about before.
No.
And something that I thought kind of was crazy when I looked things up today is Fort Dodge has a moderate risk of wildfire right now. With 11,233 properties, 98% of all those properties have some type of fire risk right now.
Wow.
Is that just because of Canada blowing all the smoke over? And
I have no idea. That is all that I know. Is what that one sentence says.
Oh, that's funny.
And then again, when I was looking at like all the national and regional numbers, it's just so odd that all the numbers are so much higher than Fort Dodge. Like we are so much lower. And even the interest rate, it said the average right now is 6.8. Well, one of the banks just sent us something 6.4.
Yeah. Well, we're affordable. I think cheaper is the wrong word. I think affordable is a better way to say it because it's you're not sacrificing anything. You're not going into a cheap community. I mean, we've spent so much to build it. I think it's an affordable community, and I think that's a better way to say it. Because
it is.
I mean, it's really. I'm showing a $130,000 house, and a guy's looking at it. He goes, "This would be $200,000 where I'm from, at least."
Right.
And I'm like, "That's crazy."
Yeah. We keep hearing about expensive, and how house prices have gone up, but in our area, they're still so affordable.
Good word.
Yeah. There you go. I looked up some energy efficient since we have an electrician with us today, and it says that energy efficient homes do sell for more. They don't have numbers, but they sell more than homes without these features. They will increase the value of the property, and houses and commercial buildings consume most of the portion of the U.S. energy. And it goes on and on, tells you how much electricity makes our everyday life a little bit easier.
It sure does.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it went in, it's like some remote houses don't have it, so you want to be close to where you can get power. So maybe we can talk more about that.
Awesome. Good stuff.
Oh, yeah. I got some questions on that later. Like getting power to places that don't have power. Expense. I got two questions on it. So Todd, just introduce yourself. A lot of listeners might not know who you are.
Yeah. So I'm Todd Baker. I own Baker Electric here in Fort Dodge. Kind of going way back. I graduated from St. Edmund High School in 1999. I got married to, which would be Amanda Clark, which is now Amanda Baker, back in 2003. We have three amazing children. Case, our oldest, is 22. He works for us. Clara is 20. She goes to the University of Iowa. And Clay is 19, and he works 18, and he works for us as well.
Yeah, don't rush that. They grow up too fast.
Yeah. We were super excited for the empty nester, part of our life. And then here comes our daughter back from Iowa, and she's crashing our house all summer, which is great to have her around. But when she leaves dishes in the sink and things of that nature, it drives me crazy.
Yep.
So.
You were used to it before.
Yeah.
We're the same way.
Exactly.
I'm like, I know I put that down right there. Why isn't it there anymore?
Precisely. So, no. So yeah, great family. Love Fort Dodge. We're heavily involved with St. Men, like I said, because I'm an alum there, but my wife's an alum at Fort Dodge High, and we love both communities and support both, and just really really happy and proud to be a part of Fort Dodge.
Yeah, we're kind of the same. I'm a senior high graduate. He's a St. Ed's graduate, so we
know.
We know.
We've met.
So tell us about starting Baker Electric. I read something in the paper that it was in the back of a purple Dodge Neon. Tell us more about that.
So the Neon was my wife's car, if admittedly so. Purple Dodge Neon. So Amanda and I, we got married, and her last car in high school was a purple Dodge Neon. Well, I worked at Story City for Pella Windows. Couldn't afford, gas in either the family minivan or a truck, so I took her car to work. During that tenure at Story City for Pella Windows, I started, moonlighting, quote unquote. I was wiring houses on the side, and I wasn't, quite licensed yet. And back then, you didn't have to be to wire outside of the city.
Statutes of limitations up here, fine.
Yeah, perfect. So anyway, I really couldn't haul any ladders, right? And it takes ladders to wire houses. So my father-in-law, who at that time owned Double C Builders, would literally take my ladders and other equipment to the job for me, and I would show up in a Dodge Neon. So got a couple of houses under our belt, and then I was able to buy a pickup and ultimately afford the gas to and from. So Baker Electric legit started out of the backseat of a Dodge Neon.
That's so cool.
Yep.
That is awesome.
And it reminds me of Microsoft started in a garage, Apple started in a garage, and so many small businesses just scale like that.
Yeah.
And the whole point of this talk about business, and Shiny Top started that same way. And I can talk because Todd and I are both bald. He fits into the Shiny Top crew. We built it small. I mean, it was 2,000 square feet. We had the brewery. Every penny was accounted for. Yeah. And then, the neighbors came open, and then we could serve wine and not just beer. And then we could serve all kinds of beer. And then we could add all this stuff. So growing that organically, I think, makes the most successful businesses in this area. I mean, trying to go in and build huge and think it's going to go.
Yeah, start small.
Yeah, I mean, if you really build it, they will come. But then there's, the debt to income ratio too, right? You don't want to drop $1 million and hope they come when you can do, say, 200,000, and then little come, then put another couple 100,000, and so on and so forth. To your point, grow it organically it makes a lot of sense.
Which is so different than the rest of the country, because when we built Fort Frenzy, we're working with consultants from all over, and they're like, just build it big, it'll go, people will come. I'm like, okay, because I didn't know. Sure. And then, it took years and years and years to get that to the point where it was cash flowing and doing what it was supposed to do. And it's just kind of crazy how that organic, starting in a Dodge Neon, wiring 2-3 houses, and then buying a truck, and then moving on, is so important to business in these markets, a small market.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also a big change, right? If you're going from being a full-time electrician for a great company such as Pella or any of our companies around here, and then to go and be self-employed like that is a big risk. So being able to quote unquote moonlight, kind of start a clientele base before you take that plunge was looking back was a great decision as well.
Yeah. Tell us about that moment in business where you made that realization that Baker Electric's going to be more than just me and a Dodge Neon moonlighting, and it's going to be a full-time job.
I'll never forget it. So we were on the horizon of a shift at Pella. Okay, we got rid of all of our woodworking window equipment, and we went to a vinyl window equipment. Soon after that, they came around to the maintenance and engineering departments and were like, listen, all overtime has to be approved, blah, 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 blah. So we knew right away things aren't good, okay? Because the previous 5 years was unlimited overtime, just,
build.
As we all know, right? We make decent money on overtime rates, right?
Yeah.
So we were picking up a little bit more on the side, and I opened my red toolbox lid, and I still today use the yellow sticky notes for just quick note taking. I got to call him, got to do this. And so I had those just full, and I opened it up, and I'm looking at a bunch of yellow sticky notes, and I said, it's time. And so I went home that day. I said, listen, I'm working 40 hours a week for an employer. I swear I can work 80 hours a week for myself, and doing the math and all the things, and factoring taxes and all the things you got to do as you're self-employed. I told my wife I'm gonna try it. And remember, at this time, I had a pretty good little side business going, plus a great full-time job. So when you combine those two, it's a pretty good income.
Yeah, you're not doing too bad.
You're 24 years old.
Oh yeah.
Now you got to tell your wife that we're going to lose all of that.
Precisely.
But we're gaining all
she might see is this little bit. It's like,
it was. She always has had the most faith in me, for sure. But she was like, are you sure? And I'm like, do you trust me? And she's like, no. So ultimately, yes, I ended up starting it. And there was definitely some growing pains, ups and downs. It wasn't just peaches and cream, from the start. But yes, we kind of got through that startup point, and things worked out pretty good.
Tell me about the first time you realized what 941s were as an employer. I about threw up that day. I'm like, what do you mean we're giving the government this much money?
Yeah, now I obviously pay our taxes quarterly, but back then it was once a year, to your point, and it's a big gut shot when you're you're younger, right? You got 3 kids, you're buying diapers, formula, you've got car payments, house payments. There's a lot going on. So to be able to set aside, 20%.
And starting new, you probably buy a new equipment.
Absolutely.
You have to buy the wire. You have to buy.
Yes.
Oh, you got to buy every
tools,
tool. You got to buy every rack.
Gloves.
Exactly. And so to put that 20% to the side for taxes is challenging. There was years we had a payment plan, with the government. I'm like, I can't pay.
I want to pay.
Right.
Thank you for roads and everything else. I want to pay, but there's just nothing there.
Exactly. So yeah, that's, when you're thinking about starting your own business, that's definitely something a guy needs to consider.
Oh yeah. It's just crazy. And you just didn't know.
Yeah.
I've been going into it. I'm like, it was always taken care of. I thought it collected itself. And I have to pay their half too? No, they took that out of their paycheck, but I have to write the check for both.
Yes.
It's just so crazy.
Yeah.
So tell me about Amanda taking. I know Joyce is my rock when it comes to everything we do. She's behind me all the time and she supports me. Not that she doesn't get mad or we don't have those little quit spending money things. How does that work with you guys? Tell me about.
I mean, Amanda is key to our operation and was just so amazing during the whole startup, if you will. Okay. And I gave a speech one time and basically said, behind every good man is a great woman. Yep. And there is a ton of truth to that. Again, we had 3 young kids. They're active, they're busy, and Dad was working. I worked first shift, so I would have to go in and do my quote unquote overtime before the shift started.
Oh, so you're at 3 a.m.
And I'm in Fort Dodge, mind you. So I'm getting up at 3:30 and I'm going to Story City. And then I'm doing my overtime, getting things ready, doing little projects, on the equipment before the operators come in to run that equipment, correct? Mm-hmm. And then I'm getting off at 3, I'm getting home at 4. And then I'm working till 9 or 10 or 11, getting the commitments that I signed up for completed on time. Because, builders, et cetera, they don't care what you got going on. They don't care about anything other than they're drywalling on Friday. And it's Tuesday, and we got a lot of wire to put in. And so anyway, her giving baths to the kids, feeding the kids, doing all the things is probably more of a major feat than what I did starting Baker, to be honest. Like, I don't think I could have done it without her. And there's no doubt about it.
We come to realizations where it's like, well, people think you just taking kids to practice here and there. You also have to schedule all these doctor's appointments and ear appointments, eye appointments, like teeth appointments. It's like it's all of them.
And she was running an in-home daycare too. I mean, she had 4 or 5 kids, during the day. So it wasn't just our kids. It was, we needed all the money we could get. So she's been supportive. She's been amazing. And even to this day, I'll still take a call in here and there. And, the phone will ring at Saturday night at midnight and I'll grab it. And if I can't get a hold of a guy, then I'll go take it myself. And she's like, hey, you better go. And I'm like, yep. And, and just meetings and vacations and everything that we schedule, it always is around Baker Electric. And she has never pressed that issue. She's never said, no, we're not going to do this. We're going to do that. I'm like, Baker Electric's always been number one. And it has with her too. And she's an amazing person.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to have that rock behind you. Otherwise it just doesn't work.
Right. Yeah. And she's cool too.
And that's more important.
That's right.
I like going places with her.
That's right. Yeah.
I see you two out. You know what? Almost every show we've had, we've talked about the trails. And I know you use the trails.
I think, honestly, I just Monday night went on a bike ride and left our house and went out on the trail and ended up going through Kennedy Park. And I said to her, we stopped on the bridge at Kennedy and looked across the lake. And I said, I don't feel like I'm in Fort Dodge. I think it's one of the most underrated aspects of Fort Dodge that maybe doesn't get used enough. That is just beautiful. It's so amazing. It's well thought out. I love it. It's one of my favorite things about Fort Dodge is that bike trail system. Whether you're running, walking, biking, I do it all, and I love it. I truly do.
Joyce and I got the bikes out first time on Saturday and just took the big loop. She goes, let's just take a big loop because I don't want to push it too hard. And I'm like, well, let's go to the winery because we can go to the winery now.
Yes, you can.
She's like, but let's just make the loop. I'm like, okay, we'll just do that.
Yeah, I think Fort Dodge did an incredible job getting that bike trail established and well maintained, I'll add. I mean, it's always mowed. It is. Hands off, just phenomenal
Sunday night we went down to Kennedy and fished with
Yep.
the kids, and they must have just filled it with a whole bunch of little fish. Because it's so much fun for the boys. They're just yanking fish out of the lake left and right, just unhooking
And all
them.
Dad
I
does
think
is
they
put a new
catch
worm on.
Yeah, a new worm on. Yep.
Take off a fish, put a worm on.
Yep.
So tell us about building the business. It started out just you.
Yep.
And now about 75 employees. What was that like?
Yeah, so it was awesome, right? I feel like we, when you're building something, right, you need to build it starting from, we say from the ground up, but what we really mean is we want like a big, wide, broad, deep foundation, and then we want to build up. We can't build something on a 2-foot foundation and have it 50 foot in the air, right? Or it's going to topple. So basically, I hired, my first guy. I was like, listen, I'm too busy. I can't keep up. My phone's ringing. I gotta have more guys. So I hired one guy, actually Richard Bermudez, and he's still with me today. First guy I ever hired, still employed. Love him. Great guy. And then, we call him Churd, Churd and I, whatever. We cruised around in a van, and then we were just still too busy. So at that time, my brother had gotten laid off from Tate and Lyle before Cargill had purchased it. And so he went through electrical school with me. He worked at Pella Windows with me. So he was very capable electrician. And so I hired him. Then I hired another guy and another guy. So we had about 6 to 8 guys going. And then we started kind of with the guys that we were hiring, we were able to go into the commercial industrial side and kind of getting out of what we started on, which would be like the residential, new construction, remodeling, additions, etc. And that kind of catapulted us into a different market. And we got to 20 guys in the first, say 4 to 5 years, maybe 6 years. And then we got to 30, and then things really started to crack open. We were able to go after big projects, 6-month jobs, 8-month jobs, year jobs. And, we've been up past 100 employees because we picked some jobs up out of town, out of state. So we've got a bit of a traveling crew that, admittedly is hard to have it very, intact the entire time. The jobs just aren't that consistent. And, you got a bunch of guys that are used to making, per diem and maybe a little bit more per hour. It's hard just to bring those guys into town, So we like to say we settle in at about 70, 80 guys, around the area. And then we've, can get 20, 30 traveling here, there. And so, it started residential, kind of commercial, industrial, and now we actually have several different divisions, and then we've got divisional managers within the divisions. So I like our organizational chart, if you will. It really works well. So,
Good.
Tell us about culture. How do you maintain culture? Because I know I think I have 80 employees with everybody, and culture is always something that you work so hard on, especially with younger generations. They're more into the culture than they are the pay sometimes. Yeah. How do you deal with that? And how do you maintain a positive culture?
Well, number one, culture is incredibly important. I mean, not a lot of people wake up in the morning and say, yeah, I'm ready to go to work. I can't wait for this day, right? So treating people with kindness and fairness, I believe, has got us a long ways. I like to say that I'm just part of the team, okay? I never act as the dictator, if you will. I view our whole company as a democracy, and if you're a first-year apprentice or a 15-year vet that's a project manager, I value everybody the same. We try to send out monthly company newsletters and keep everybody involved. We get together a couple times a year and have safety training, and we order pizza and have maybe even a few drinks after work on those type of events. And just keeping everybody together is step one. And then cultivating those relationships internally mean a lot for quote unquote the boss to call up that 5th-year guy, that 2nd-year guy, that 15-year guy and say, hey, how's things going? What can I do? How's everything going? Is super important to do that. And then we also evaluate every employee every year. So I get across the table with every one of my guys, usually on their anniversary date.
Yep.
And we sit down and we talk about the pros and cons. Typically that results in a raise, most of the time. So it's a good time for them to, know, hey, I'm going to be talking to the boss. I got to keep my knife sharp, so to speak. but it lets me kind of download some information that maybe I don't have time to do all the time. And just being available, being fair, being kind, I think just sets the pace for the appropriate culture. And not every day is a good day. You know, there's guys yesterday working out in the rain. You know,
and a lot of rain.
Yeah. I mean, so, you know, we deal with conditions in Iowa, cold weather, hot weather, et cetera. Not every day, as you know, is it no wind and 70.
Climbing into roofs when it's 80.
Yeah, we're in attics. We're in, you know, we're in
10 degrees.
Hot buildings. We're in energy centers. We're in these industrial plants, and there's no AC in there. I mean, it could be 120 degrees. So we ask a lot of our guys, but in return, we try to, you know, we have an awesome benefits package. We pay top dollar for hourly rates. You know, we try to treat everybody as good as we can, knowing that we have to save for a rainy day as well. You know, we can't give out all the profit, obviously. And then we do bonuses and everything. So yeah, I mean, the fact is let's just say the last 5 years, we've averaged at least 70, 80 guys. We've lost 2 or 3 to, hey, I quit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that really speaks volumes to what we're doing at Baker Electric.
That low turnover is a big deal.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's hard to avoid the people that are like, hey, I want to do better. I want to do this on my own. I have a better job coming. But the ones are like, I just don't like it here.
Yeah. And there's a question on most pre-qualification forms that we fill out to work for several different companies. And one of the questions is, what's your turnover rate? Right. And I think they want to see that. And they're really asking, what's your culture like? Yeah. In my opinion. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, good stuff. Yeah. You know, again, you got to take the time. It's easy for me to say, well, I have no time to talk to everybody. I'm doing 100 million things, but that's the wrong approach.
You have to make time.
You got to be approachable.
Yep.
No doubt about it.
Well, I bet that leads right into customer service.
Yeah.
Happy people working for you. And now what do you?
Yep. So we've always had customer service has always been number one, right? Now, are there times where we've, you know, slipped up a little bit here and there? Yeah. I mean, I think I'd be foolish to say, nope, we're perfect, right? But when that happens, you know, we reach out to the homeowner, to the plant manager, whatever it happens to be, and we don't want to throw excuses. We want to take ownership of, you know, where did we fall short? And let me tell you, we're going to fix it. You know, whatever the problem is, we're going to make it right, no extra charge, but we're also going to put a process in place so this don't happen again. All right. And over the years, we've got a ton of practice, processes, and we've just been a lot better. But customer service in my eyes is, if you're not happy, what can I do to make you happy? Yep. Okay. Now, as we're all in business here, you're going to run across, you know, the guy, the gal, the business, the company that's a little unreasonable, and you just do the best you can.
5% of all people.
Okay. Thank you.
5%.
But yeah, there are going to be some people that are just unreasonable, but you don't let that shake you to your core either. Like, it's like, okay, I'm not going to move heaven and earth here, you know, and change all this because I've got one, you know, disgruntled person. But again, we try very hard to preach to our guys. It's yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am. You know, we take our shoes off when we go into a home. We, you know, try to dress professionally, and it just means a lot to me. You know, if we're asking someone to give us your money, so to speak, even though we're providing a service, the least we could do is be extremely respectful, and try to do the best job we can. And turns out, you know, that's what we do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go in there with an attitude that I can make this, I'm going to make it right no matter what, we're going to fix this, it really goes a long way with most people.
It does. And when I start the conversation off, because, you know, they'll call the office and they'll, hey, you know, why is my bill so high? That's classic, you know. Yeah. and I start the conversation off, hey, thanks for the business, and we're going to figure this out, you know, and here's why you got billed this originally. But again, we're going to come to a solution here. You know,
we're going to figure it out.
That's right. And you're right. 90% of people are way cool with that.
Well, because I was at Menards the other day, and that wire only cost 15 cents an inch. Yes. And you charged me $1. So I just don't understand where that comes from.
You can imagine. But again, I get it. I mean, you know, when I'm a homeowner too, and when I hire, you know, a HVAC guy or a carpenter or something, I'm like, hey, you know, I'm in the same line of work you are. I expect there to be a small amount of profitability, right? You got to keep the doors and lights open. You got to make money. People who think they're not going to let you make money, or that's not really that reasonable. You got to make a little bit of money, but like they say in the movie Rounders, you know, you can shear a sheep many times, but skin them only once. Yep. And I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah. What was it? Jim Kesterson Pigs get fat, hogs go to slaughter.
Yep.
Kind of the same. I always love that saying.
Yep.
I'm like, it's so true.
It is.
So you've made, go ahead.
I know you've been in Fort Dodge for a long time,
Yes.
and we didn't put anything on here, but I know you volunteered and you've been on a lot of boards. So
Yeah.
would you want to tell us some of the things that you've done just on your own time?
Yeah. So I started off really just coaching all my kids, both my boys in football. I've coached my daughter in soccer too, football, soccer, everything dad's coach. And then I coach my daughter's team in even girls basketball, soccer, whatever. I love coaching. Mm-hmm. So that kind of got me into coaching the 5th and 6th grade team over at St. Ed's. But it was through like the YSF league, but I think our team was called St. Edmund, but it's not really sanctioned through St. Edmund. Okay.
Yep.
And so that kind of got me into the varsity level, coaching with the football staff. So I love coaching. I've been on the St. Edmund school board. I've been on the chair of the board. You kind of get nominated, and then you're secretary, vice president, president, and then post president. So that was great. I have missed a few meetings, but I'm on the electrical technology committee at Iowa Central. I'm on the Greater Growth Alliance. Part of that. Just recently got on the board there. So yeah, I try to give back when I can. We are extremely busy. We're trying to wind down a little bit. As I mentioned earlier, it's kind of joking, but yes, we are empty nesters officially. So that is really nice. But prior to that, running a business, running a family, all of our kids were in every athletic event.
Yep.
And then when you put the coaching and the school boards, and it's a lot.
It is.
And you got to make a little time to have that date night or to have the game night with the family. And so I think that's, to your point earlier, where Amanda shines, is it's easy for me to be exhausted. Like, hey, I want to go to bed at 6:30 at night. Right. And she's like, no, the kids are coming over for steaks and for, we're going to play, aggravation or whatever, some game. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's really what I love about her. She keeps me in line as well. And I don't mind that, like, hey, we got to make time for all these other things as well. But yeah, back to your question. Yeah. When I can give back to Fort Dodge, I love to, and, hence making time, for you guys and other various things that we do.
Yeah.
So this podcast is about Fort Dodge.
That's right.
And tell us about where you see the benefits of owning and operating a business in Fort Dodge. Why this is a great place to do that.
Well, I mean, if I'm being completely honest, it's a good spot, for us because, both of our families have been born and raised here. So when you can start a business with the foothold of, hey, my mom and dad's friends, my in-laws, friends, family, everybody. I mean, there's a client base starting off of 50 to 100 people at least, right?
Yes.
So that part of it, again, being honest, that makes sense, right?
Oh, yeah.
But as we continue to grow, Fort Dodge is unique in the sense of it's small to where, you can connect with a lot of people. And if you do a great job and have all the things we've talked about, customer service, good culture, et cetera, then you can thrive in Fort Dodge. But it's small enough to have that feature, but yet large enough to where it can support, just on the electrical side, 4, 5, 6 really great electrical companies as well. I know there's other companies in town that are doing a phenomenal job as well. And, we've started a plumbing shop with Dan Ball and Ball Plumbing, and that's going really good. And again, there's a lot of great plumbing jobs and our plumbing companies. So it's big enough in the sense that there's room for a lot. But small enough to where you go to church, et cetera, and you see a lot of people
And everybody.
And I think that's really special for me. I'm, again, born and raised. I love Fort Dodge and do what I can, to help Fort Dodge.
Yeah, Joyce is almost to the point where she won't go to the grocery store with me anymore because I have to say I know. She's like, I'll just stay home. You go.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
And I know you enjoy cooking. I've watched several of your TikToks, and I also enjoy cooking. In fact, I do all the cooking in the house. Thus, I do
95%.
Yep. And you're right. I should say the same thing. I don't do all the cooking, but I do 99% of it. And I also do 95% of the grocery shopping. And every time I go to the grocery store, same thing. I love bumping into people I meet. And sometimes, I'm on a mission. I don't have a list. I've got it up here and I can't lose it, But yeah, you see a lot of people, whether in the store, the movie theater, the church, the restaurants, the ball games. Yeah. So,
And new Dodger Stadium is going to be cool. We were there the other day, and oh my goodness.
I tell you what, we had the honor of doing the electrical on that project, and I can't believe how good it turned out. It is amazing. I mean, not just the electrical being just world class, but everything. It needed it, number one. And boy, did the school knock it out of the park. Their design team did a great job. The school did a great job. The facilities, managers they did a great job. Like, it was a very successful project, in my opinion.
And it's just so
awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
The LED lights above the lockers. It took me a minute to see that, and then I'm like, that is
Isn't that
really,
cool?
really cool.
I mean, those are kind of some of the things you see in collegiate locker rooms.
Oh, yeah.
To be honest, I mean, it is very nice. Very nice job for the community.
Wasn't that nice when I played football as a freshman?
Yeah, a little bit of growing pain there, right? With they had to go in the visitors' locker room. They had to put a pop-up tent for the visitors, but well worth it.
Yep.
Anybody who comes to Dodger Stadium to play ball, they're going to be shocked.
So being a St. Ed's grad, did you make the light so they changed to green when St. Ed's gets dressed in there?
I should have thought of that.
I'm sure the locker room was exactly like it was when it was for you.
Yeah, and what a great thing too for the community to,
Except for 15 years older.
right, to share that facility with St. Edmund, and I think we pay a little bit of rent, but it's nickels, for what they could charge, right? So yeah, what a great venue for Dodgers, for the Gales, for the Tritons. I mean, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yep.
When I give community tours, I always go right around Dodger Stadium and talk about that for a little bit because
it's historic.
it is.
Yeah.
Well, it started as a public works, to get after the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Fort Dodge suffered terrible after the Great Depression. So to have those public works things that would make the baseball and the Cubs and who played there? The Cubs and the White Sox.
Okay. I didn't
Back
know
in the
that.
day, the Cubs have played at Dodger Stadium once, and I'll have to look up some info on that. But
Yeah, the baseball field's awesome too. Years ago, a couple of donors approached us about, hey, we want to put some Musco lighting in, and that Musco lighting, is high dollar, and we were able to donate all the labor to put that lighting system in
that's
for them.
cool.
So
Wow.
that was really cool. Yeah, they bought the materials, and I donated the labor and made it happen. So
That's
it's
awesome.
really cool. It's a special place for us. I got to play there too. I coached there. I watched my kids there. I love it.
Yeah, I remember seeing you on the sidelines with the kids,
Yep.
with your kids out there, and it's like you got excited every once in a while.
I'm high energy anyway, right? I'm not a loper or whatever. I come to play, whatever I'm doing. And yeah, if I'm coaching, I'm coaching with passion, with energy.
I think it was a homecoming game we were at, and I was like, Todd's the energy coach.
Yeah.
He brings the energy.
Yeah, I want to be out there,
I'll do it for you if you can't.
That's right. Let me show you.
This is how you hit them.
Did you get in on the Big Green Monster at Harlan Rogers?
I did. We've got a sponsorship on
Yep.
the Big Green Monster. And
So cool. It says Baker Electric. It also says Fort Frenzy, Shiny Top, and Godfathers. So
Yeah.
that was so cool.
Yeah.
And they did that because they kind of wanted that, the Big Green Monster
Yep.
and then the historic Dodger Field, talking
Yep.
about baseball. So
Yep. Yeah.
something you can't get in every community is that feel of being in the old Wrigley and being in the big fields and the newer stuff.
Yeah, it's great. Again, when a lot of people approach us for donorship opportunities and sponsorship opportunities, and we're we want to be disciplined, right? But we also want to be very helpful, and that one there made a lot of sense for us.
Us too. And then of course Flattery and Mahoney just
Yeah.
preaching it to you doesn't hurt at all.
No, they know my soft spot.
They know mine too.
Yeah.
So growing up in Fort Dodge, a small community, like we talked about, it's big, but it's small.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's a great community. But how did growing up in Fort Dodge and being part of that small community help influence your business practices as it grew more statewide and regionally?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as a kid, you're not thinking big picture. You're running around town, getting into trouble,
Yep.
all the things, And I think the one thing that really resonated with me is, hey, when you get in trouble, all right, 30, 40, 50 people knew about it, or more, or hundreds, if I'm being honest, right?
Yep.
So I took that then in business, like, hey, we got to do a great job, because if we don't, 100 people are going to hear about it. Okay.
Yep.
So it's just so important, whether you're a kid, whether you're a teenager, a young adult, or, an older business owner, that whatever you do has an impact on the community, positive or negative. And I think, if I could give some kids, some advice, is that, hey, maybe sometimes you got to tone it down, have fun, live, but maybe tone it down a little bit, because you're going to be going to church. You're going to be going to restaurants. You're going to be going to ball games, and you're going to be seeing these people in your community in
possibly for the rest of your life.
Exactly. And there was times that I rode that line, right? I mean, you definitely know, and that's one thing, looking back is, I'm happy that, all the life lessons that I've learned, but yet I think there's times where, I could have toned it down a little bit.
We all could.
Yep.
Make good decisions.
Yep.
So you've been doing this for a while, and the industry has changed.
Yep.
What are some of the biggest changes you've had to adapt to in the electrical field over the last 20 years?
Tech world.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton, right? I mean, there's big Wi-Fi presence, big fiber presence, a lot of machines, long time ago had this, DH plus data highway, we called it, where our PLCs would link together with a 2-wire, 3-wire cable, and now it's, all fiber. And so that's something that's gotten better, but we have to adapt to, you need better tools, better equipment, testing, fusion splicers, the whole bit, right? So there's significant costs there too that you have to adapt to. Of course, we all went through the LED lighting, it's kind of the norm now, right?
It was the mini fluorescence that got me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. The compact
we still run into
fluorescence,
some, and I'm like, oh, would you just please change that out? Here's a light bulb.
Yeah. So I mean, that was the LED craze. We got through that, which was great, honestly. I mean, there was a lot of rebates from Mid-American Energy, so we could sell the product, install the product, and give a significant savings to the end user, obviously. There's other technology that people don't see is. We used to clock in with a time clock, right? You'd have a timesheet holder, and you'd grab it out and you'd clock in. Well, imagine today having, at times 100 guys walking through the shop to clock in and then coming back to clock out. That doesn't work,
Yeah.
In days and, mornings and nights, there's not always somebody there to do that for them. So we clock in and out on our cell phones now, and that comes with GPS tracking. So if I get a service call, I can say, God, is little Johnny in that area? Oh, yep, he's right there. I'll call him up. Hey, can you take that call real quick? So technology, is always advancing, but there's benefits to it if you can adapt and get used to it and apply it to your business.
We have one company where we can actually make notes. So they'll clock in at one site. When they leave that site, they'll clock in for the next site.
Yep.
So we can keep track of what site they're working on and who gets the mileage and who gets the bill.
Absolutely. And we do the same thing. And within T-sheets, we call it, we might have, let's just say CJ Bio, for example. Okay. We might have 5 projects going out there. Well, that guys might work on all 5 in a day. So we can't just clock in at CJ Bio. We got to say, hey, we're doing this. And then they'll clock out and they'll clock in on this, and they'll clock out and clock in on this. So it's
I never
great.
thought about just the simple GPS. Like if you have 10 people out there working today, and I call in and be like, yeah, Jimmy's right over there. You can maybe hit him up in between, because that's a simple thing.
I'll tell you where it really comes in helpful too, to your point. Yes, that's valid. It also comes into what we talked about earlier is, hey, my bill's too expensive, right? Well, we can say, sir or ma'am, we actually have our GPS sheet that will email you that shows our guy or vehicle or both on your property from this time to this time. Now, if there's conversation about how hard they were working, that's a different story, right? But at least we can
Sitting there
start
petting the dog the whole time.
Yeah, we can start by saying, hey, we were there for 5 hours. And that's how we generate some of our invoicing as well, is through T-sheets. So it's all good stuff for sure.
So LEDs, regular light bulbs to mini fluorescent LEDs was all this technology. What's the next thing coming up in technology that we're going to have to watch for?
What is the coolest thing that everybody needs in their house?
I mean, smart homes are becoming more popular. I think when people are building houses, some are on a pretty tight budget, and that's okay. And most don't want to invest into a smart home, but it works just like your furnace, right? We've furnace and ACs. We've had what I would say, programmable thermostats, right? Where you can turn it on, turn it off, set programs for the day. Now you can control it from your cell phone. A lot of that too in your homes. You leave the house, all your lights shut off automatically, so you don't leave them on. You can adjust, things of that nature, dimming, brightness, all the things. So I think that's something that's coming. There are a couple that we've done, turned out great. I think as the cost of that comes down, I think it will become a lot more popular.
Yeah.
I think apps on your phone and Wi-Fi. It's here, but I think in the electrical field, it's becoming a lot more prevalent. There's a lot of facilities that want to integrate all their cameras across 7 states on one app and want it all to talk together. So the CEO, if you will, can sit there and say, hey, I'm looking at 7 different facilities and all of that. And then, again, involves us running cabling and fiber and everything to make that all happen. So
I wouldn't want to know that.
It's hard to say. If I could predict what the next, paradigm shift would be in electrical, man, I'd be in good shape.
Yeah, let me know. I'll help with that.
Right.
I do have 48 devices on my Wi-Fi, just with light bulbs and light switches and thermostats and everything else at home. So, Joyce, and we have curtains in our room because there's a light. We cut down a tree in the backyard. There's a light that shines in my eyes.
Oh.
So I bought curtains off Amazon that automatically go down a half hour after dusk.
Yeah.
And they automatically go up.
Yes.
Half hour before the sun comes up.
It's amazing.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool. It does wake me up every once in a while. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Because you hear the motor. Yeah, absolutely.
But then the lights turn on and off, and the outside lights turn on and off. And then we put the lights on the outside of the house that change colors. So it's green for St. Patrick's Day, and it's red for Valentine's Day.
So he's the old guy with the young tech, all that stuff. I'm the young guy that doesn't want any of it. I was like, I will get my butt up and I will move the curtain and then I will go back and I will go to bed.
Have you seen the switch covers you can get for lights? You got to open it in order to turn the light on.
Oh yeah.
I bought 3 dozen of them for our house, so
nobody touches them.
Switch touching the lights. Don't touch that switch.
Yeah,
just tell it to shut off. It'll shut off.
Yeah, I'm with you. I have my kids. How do you do this again? And of course, I got Snapchat and all the things, and I don't know how to do the half read stuff and how to save it. Like I'll say, send me your list. I'm gonna go to whatever Subway, or I'm gonna go run to the store. Yeah. They'll snap it to me. Well, I don't know how to save it, so I'm like, you gotta text it to me if you want me to get it.
I'm gonna forget by next time. That's I promise.
Right. I was in This Man Is You with all the older guys, and there was one kid who was 18 there, and he was talking about Snapchat, and I was like, oh my gosh, I pulled it up for the first time in like 6 months the other day, and it's like they must have changed some things because I couldn't figure out how to take a picture. And afterwards, he said he was just laughing so hard. It's like, it's not that hard. I'm like, I know. It shouldn't be, but I just don't want to learn.
One more thing.
Right. And I think, so we all got, you and I, we got our first cell phones, in college, right? I mean, or early college. And at the start of cell phones, it was like, don't text me. Just call.
Because it's going to cost
especially
you money.
You don't dare text your grandpa and grandma, right? Even though they might have gotten a cell phone there at some point, they don't know how to text. You call. Well, it's crazy how now, not only are we texting grandpas and grandmas and everybody, but they're snapping and they're sitting at the airport. What are they doing? Old grandma's on her phone, TikToking and on Facebook. And it's crazy how they all had resistance at first, but embraced it.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
The first time I saw somebody text, I was at Misau Army Depot, Germany. On a rail mission into Bosnia because I was an MP, so we'd have to escort ammunition in and out. And this dude's sitting on his phone, and of course at that time it was 222.
Yep.
4.
Oh yeah.
And
yes.
I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm sending my wife a text. I'm like, you've been doing this for 8 minutes. Isn't it faster to just call her? She goes, well, this way I don't have to talk for 20 minutes because she won't shut up.
Brilliant.
All right, now I get why texting works.
Yeah. That's cool.
That is hilarious.
So looking back over time, young entrepreneurs, I'm sure you have people come up to you all the time, say, I want to do this, I want to do that. What's the first piece of advice you give them?
You got to work hard. I mean, I think that's obvious. I think for some it's not. I think there's some that look in and say, that's easy. I can do it. It's not easy, and it's not for everyone. It not only do you have to have hard work, and you got to have, a little bit of luck from time to time, but you got to put your heart and soul into it. And what I would tell somebody today is, listen, it's going to change who you are, right? When you can clock out at 4:00 and you don't think about work until the next morning, that is precious, right? And that's not the case when you're a business owner. It is, you're out to dinner with your wife or girlfriend, whatever, on a Friday night, and you might be checking your email. And it also, the stress, the anxiety, just your overall health, it takes a beating. Mm-hmm. And if you're doing it right, you got to put all the chips on the table And sometimes, looking back, you'd love to grab a few of those and put those back in your pocket, and you just can't do it. So hard work, take care of yourself, take care of, your health, and, and then of course, the money. Like it takes a lot of money to start a business. I mean, you don't get to work for people and hand them a bill and they pay you on the spot. I mean, if you want to say in maybe a small little market, that might work, but you're not going to our industrial facilities and sliding an invoice over, right? So, it takes some money too to get started. So I would, again, encourage them to save, plan accordingly.
So how often at 3 o'clock in the morning are you awake?
Yeah,
I call it actually Cully Holmes, Dr. Holmes calls it the witching hour.
Yeah.
He goes, it's that 3 o'clock in the morning where you're laying awake, like, what did I forget today? What do I have to do tomorrow? And it's probably 4 to 5 days a week. I'm up at 3 a.m. just like, oh gosh, what did I forget? I
like to say, like, as soon as my mind wakes up, that's all she wrote. There's no going back to sleep. And my mind will wake up at 2, 3. Generally, I've gotten myself on a pretty good schedule. I get up at 3:50. I have a cup of coffee. I leave the house at 4:52, go to the gym. I'm back home. I'm at work by 6:30. And so then that puts me in bed by 8 o'clock, some nights, right? And then I can sleep pretty good until, again, my mind wakes up, and I'm starting to train myself to where it's that 3:50. I get up really early. I like to start my day. Nobody's bothering me. I get that workout in. So I feel like my anxiety and stress levels are reduced after a workout. I've got them endorphins. I feel like I accomplished something. That's been huge for me. And then, I've gotten a routine. I wash my truck. I go to the grocery store. I go home. I make dinner. I go to bed. So that's it. And my wife, it drives her crazy sometimes that I'm so just set in my ways, and I'm 44 years old, But I love it.
I've had a lot of young people ask, like, how do you get the grind? Like, how do you get going? Like, what do you have to be willing to do? It's like when you're grinding and when you're starting, you have to be willing to work for free. And I've said that over and over again. It's like you're working for free all the time. And like what you just said is like you're working for that paycheck until 4 o'clock and then you walk off. Well, you can try as an owner to do that, but you're not.
No.
You're still working. And even if you go out to eat and you said the emails, you're also have that smile on your face and you're talking to all the other people in the room. Whether you're working or not, you're still working. Yeah,
you're distracted for sure. And sometimes people can think that that's maybe rude. And, my wife has commented before, and maybe it is, but it's just,
put your phone down.
It changes you, and sometimes, we like to think for the best, but I think there are some negative, ramifications too of being all in on a business and not giving, your kids, your community, your wife, the full attention they deserve, because your business gets most of your attention. And
you're married to it too.
You are. And in starting one, is a little bit different than maybe, for our kids to take over and maybe their kids is the foundation, the footprint is in place. It's still going to be challenging. Don't get me wrong. And oftentimes very difficult. But when you create something from scratch, it just adds that extra element of it's hard, it's stressful. And then it's like, hey, I have the anxiety. Is this going to make it? And even year 20, let's say 2003. So year 22, I'm still like, God, I got to get up every day thinking that this may not work. And even though
you don't go today, you might lose something.
That's exactly. If I don't bid that job, am I going to lose it all? And I just, it bothers me. And it's created a bit of anxiety for me that I have to learn to deal with.
All the time.
So
where do you see Baker Electric in 5 to 10 years?
We're always looking to grow, and we have been. We're expanding, our clientele base. We're expanding. We've done jobs in South Dakota, Nebraska, New York. We're looking at one in Oregon right now. So I want to keep growing. We're putting more of an emphasis on cultivating our guys. It's very difficult to hire good electricians, especially from, again, there's, several different great electrical companies that we compete against. Well, they're doing all the things right as well. So I can't just pick the phone up and call, Mr. Smith across the street and say, hey, I'll offer you $2 more. I mean, he's well taken care of. And it's just not something we do. We don't typically poach people from our competitors, right?
And when you do, it doesn't end well.
It doesn't typically end well. There's always some or two that are trying to get paid more and play the game, or somebody gets fired and they tell you they got laid off, and we all play the games, right? But it's hard to hire, okay? And then just to think you can put these guys through school and they're going to turn out. I mean, some do, some don't. So really having that internal training program and recognizing who in your staff is really good at training people and maybe give them a bit more money and try to cycle more people through those specific guys has been working really well for us. We like to say we can grow as fast as we can get guys, because getting the work isn't the difficult part. It's being able to get the work done safely, on time, on budget.
And you need the right
people.
And
you need the right people to do that.
Yeah.
You know, so if anybody can start a company and bid a bunch of work and be low bid, but is that sustainable? I would say no, it's not. You know, so and then the other thing is, you know, Case. You know, my oldest son is just doing a phenomenal job. He's licensed electrician now, so of course him and I are, you know, he's you know, spitting code at me, and I'm like, listen, bud, you know.
Starting to tell Dad what's up.
I was there when they wrote that code.
That's right, you know. So anyway, you know, I tested on the 99 code, so that kind of, you know, dates me right there. But anyway, he's got a great head on his shoulders. My youngest son, Clay, I think together they are going to take this company to the next level. And
That's awesome.
And I'm super excited for that. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, there's the plan.
There you go. Let's do it.
Yep.
Well, we appreciate having you here today. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the invitation, and yeah, it was enjoyable.
Yeah, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep listening, because
Right there.
a lot of good stuff happens here.
Awesome. Cool.
Yay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
That's a wrap at today's episode of Talk Fort Dodge.
Stay connected with us on social media and join us next time as we continue exploring Fort Dodge's stories through the lens of two lifelong Dodgers. I'm Jeremiah Condon.
And I'm Todd McCubbin, and this is Talk Fort Dodge.
This podcast is produced by Spin Market and Digital. Located in Fort Dodge, Iowa, Spin Market's highly skilled team can help you increase your market by updating your website, improving SEO, designing advertisements, and producing podcasts that will grab the attention of your market. Contact Spin Market today for all your digital marketing needs at digitalagent@spinmarket.com or call us at 515-302-8026. And to learn more, visit our website at www.spinmarket.com. That's digitalagent@spinmarket.com or 515-302-8026. Or visit our website at www.spinmarket.com.